A pleasant day and welcome to Teaching English in the Elementary Grade Through Literacy. Materials for teaching literacy have significant role in the elementary grades. To assist their teaching and their students' learning, teachers rely substantially on a wide variety of material. In this lesson 4, we will tackle selecting appropriate materials for teaching literacy. The learning target is that at the end of this lesson, the learners are expected to identify the primary criteria in selecting instructional materials in literature teaching, evaluate the sustainability of literary piece to be used for teaching, and enrich the set criteria based on your experience. As we begin our discussion, do you have your most unforgettable children's poem or short story used in your elementary class? Why do you think this piece has made you remember it until now? You all can freely share your answer in the comment section or during our class meeting. Class, did you know that one of the crucial tasks of literature teacher is selecting the appropriate instructional materials for his or her class? Generally, instructional materials are necessary to facilitate the understanding of the topics and to ensure the validity of achieving a desired learning outcome. That is why teachers should learn how to choose proper instruction materials that suit their lesson or topic to be discussed, so that the student can more easily understand what you have taught in your class. It is even believed that the kind of instructional materials provided to literature classes contribute to the improvement or deterioration of the learner's achievement. It is an effective use of instructional materials since it helps learners to easily recognize and practice themselves how to read and write properly. In that way, when the teachers use effective instructional materials, the student will have a good performance nor can gain more knowledge and good insight. Therefore, the student can develop his or her cognitive behavioral all along. The result for your teaching method by using instructional material will have a positive outcome. The first lesson in this chapter will guide you in appropriately selecting instructional materials for your literature class to ensure the optimum engagement for your prospective learners in your future English class. Instructional materials play both an essential and significant role in teaching and the learning of various subjects, including children's literature in terms of learning. Olayinka, 2015, posited that instructional materials promote teachers efficiently and improves learners' performance. To become a complete, effective teacher or communicator to your student, you must not forget your teaching learning materials. This is where your teaching excellence is measured by how you will use and make your class presentable. By using materials in class, you can get the attention of the whole class. Especially in elementary grade, the materials are attractive for them because the way you deliver the lesson becomes clear and smooth. In that case, they will acknowledge and figure out a lot of things in your class. Additionally, the instructional materials is engaging and captivating to elementary students. The class becomes interesting so that the pupils will enjoy and participate in your class. He also added the instructional materials make learning more interesting, practical, realistic, and appealing. They also enable both the teachers and students to participate actively and effectively in the lesson. They gave room for acquisition of skills and knowledge and develop of self-confidence and self-actualization. For example, you as a teacher, you want your student to be knowledgeable and fluent in reading and writing. So so that you are trying your best and make some efforts for your student to gain a lot from your classes. Every time you teach, you use instructional materials such as book, textbooks, short stories. By using those things, it becomes a way to develop the knowledge of the children until he has self-confidence. Because of the high technology, the internet can be used during class. Like for example, during your lesson, you can explore and search your lesson easily. You can also use the internet to open your YouTube or music to energize your pupils for them to start the class with confidence and everyone can participate. Selecting instructional materials in literature classes remains to be one of the weaknesses of literature teachers in the elementary grades. In fact, True 2008 included the issue of selecting instructional materials for language and literature teaching as one of the significant concerns in Southeast Asia, including the Philippines.
Among the problems listed by Choi 2008 include the existence of few pedagogically designed, suitable materials that can be used by language teacher in a language or even in a literature classroom. The lack of preparation in the vicinity or the area of literature teaching and the dirt or the lack of clear-cut objectives defining the role of literature in English as a second language and English as a foreign language context. Based on my research, Rahimi 2008 claimed that literature provides few insight into how to evaluate and select teaching materials and sources of knowledge for each component of knowledge base. In this sense, the teacher bears the burden of selecting appropriate instructional materials in the teaching literature.
Several studies, Colopi 2003, Remillard 1999, Sharon and Derrick 2009, Thompson and Sink 2014, teachers tend to use the materials selectively and modify the suggested activities to suit their own purpose, needs, and interests. Hence, the key to filtering the best materials emerge from the appropriate criteria from selecting materials. One latest study along this line is that of Bulusan 2019. He suggested 4 major criteria to consider whenever selecting instructional materials for literature teaching. They are encapsulated in the acronym CARE: cultural enrichment, authenticity of material, relevant language enrichment, and easiest requirements in reading and understanding.
Cultural enrichment. According to Erkaya 2005, one of the primary reasons for incorporating culturally bound materials is the inseparable nature of language and culture. Language and culture share a fascinating relationship, and it's hard to teach one without touching upon the other. That's why the issue of culture should not be ignored by either teachers or students in a language classroom. Learning a language is not only learning the alphabet. The meaning, the grammar rules, and the arrangement of words. But it is also learning the behavior of the society and its cultural customs. However, there is another easier way to know how the culture of the use of a language take place, that is by reading and learning literary works such as short stories, novels, plays, and poetry.
Authenticity of the material. Literary pieces were not created purposely for teaching. Hence, in classroom context, learners are exposed to actual language samples of real life or real life-like settings. The use of language in a real-world context is illustrated by authentic materials. This can be utilized to increase the learner's interest. They can act as a helpful reminder to students that the target language is used by a large segment of the public. Literature can act as a beneficial complement to such materials, mainly when the first survival level has been passed. Authentically in literary materials also relates to the motivation and interests of the learners. Furthermore, Keshavarza 2012 also point out that good instructional materials for literature teaching become authentic when it becomes a good source and context to contextualize learners' activity. Fogel 2010 even mentioned that students yearn for authentic instructional materials in literature class that engage metacognitive awareness. When we say metacognitive, it is about learning process. Metacognitive, it is about learning process and behaviors of the person involving any degree of reflection. Relevant language enrichment. One potential criterion in selecting instructional materials for literature teaching it is high degree of relevant language enrichment. Hismanoglu's 2005 espoused that literature provides learners with a wide range of individual lexical or synthetic items so students become familiar with many features of the written language. Reading a substantial and contextualized body of the text, they learn about the syntax and discourse function of sentence. When we say syntax, it is sentence structure. The variety of possible structure and the different ways of connecting ideas, which develop and enrich their own writing skills. Good literature materials are those that can improve the learner's language skills, especially reading and speaking. For example, teacher Mila teaching her 20 students on how to construct words, put a correct punctuation mark, correct grammar, paragraphs, or sentence. And she also taught her 20 students to how to create a formal and informal letter or essay. In that way, teacher Mila needs help to make it easier for the student to understand what she is trying to teach. She used the instructional materials such as watching YouTube on how to construct an essay, reflection, and etc. Or she can also use music so that her student can hear the right pronunciation of words. Also, she can use charts with punctuation marks that make it easier for her student to familiarize and understand. Moreover, good literary materials are those that favor not only the acquisition of linguistic or grammar competence but also communicative competence. Rafi 2014. In this sense, potential instructional materials for literature teaching should enrich the linguistic skills of the learners, especially in their mastery of the grammar, the expansion of their vocabulary, and most importantly, the honing of their communicative competence. When the learners understand the text, they will divide into the text, savor the words, understand the meaning, and conserve with the text. But the focus should still be on two. the unfolding of the literary piece. In this way, this process can enhance the linguistic capability of any reader.
Is requirement in reading and understanding. The literary text should neither be too easy nor too difficult to read and understand. Carnovan, 2017, pointed out that potential materials for literature teaching should help students adapt according to their needs and situation. So as far as possible, let your student choose the test they want to read, especially in primary grades, because their level of reading and understanding is not deep as adults do. So we need to consider their situation and interest so they enjoy and learn and not be pressured. Nashiramandi, 2014, also posited that when students easily understand the text, it becomes authentic and eventually yields higher fluency in their reading and higher motivation for speaking. As a teacher, we should choose for a text which can engage effectively, challenge connectively, promote language awareness, and help learners to reflect critically about and respond imaginatively to the world where they live.